Okay, so I'm coming back to this landscape and I will be adding a slightly lighter sky as well as another layer with the knife onto pretty much everything. So here it is. This is what it looks like right now. It has dried, so pretty much it has all these very highly textured parts that will catch a new layer of paint. So I look forward to what I can do with this. And just for fun, I'm going to change the 3 colors that I work with. This is fun. So these were my original colors: primary blue, primary yellow, and primary red. And now I'm going to work with ultramarine blue. Then, okay, I will stick with my primary yellow. And as for red, I will have a nice, there it is. So it's a Carmine red. It's basically, you can use a deep magenta or anything similar. My white. When you pick up a new set of colors, what you want to do is do a very, very quick, you just want to do a very quick study of those colors. What those particular colors can do, how they mix, your greens. Oh, that's actually pretty nice. Your secondary colors come out. What are your purples? What type of a purples you can mix between your red and your blue? And then what are the kind of oranges that you can come up with? I also want to have just a set of gentle, like the mixtures of, you want to know your lighter tints. I will allow some of the previous layers to stay, some of them I will just mix in. Yeah, try to make sure that you work with a relatively clean finger as you work your way around the color wheel, trying to figure out your lighter tints. So that's my current color wheel, and that was my previous color wheel. I have changed 2 colors, so instead of my primary blue, I have ultramarine. Instead of my primary red, I have magenta color. Oh, yeah, and my original inspiration. So I go through every single time I go back to a painting, I sort of flick through what what other sketches, studies I've done, recollect myself pondering how much of a green turquoise should I include into those mountains, or should I stick with the purples? Oh, I love the pinks, and of course I love those nice red and orange mountains on this. I love this. I think I'm going to do this in a different artwork, but it has to be here to encourage me not to cover all that initial red that I had. Everything that is inspiring, everything that will have a color that I want to include, or an overall mood that I want to remember. I surround myself with the colors that I want. Now, did I say lighter pink? Yeah, I think I said something like that. So this is a lighter color. And I'm checking how light against my current pink, which is quite a strong pink. Also, you see that I picked up the colors with a fairly large knife. So again, as I said, this is just a very quick demo. I want to get rid of that very strong pink in the background. It just feels overwhelming. I feel like it's anything that is a background, it shouldn't really fight for attention. It shouldn't be attempting to take over the canvas. So, that can be done by getting rid of some of the contrasts, or making sure that you use a cooler color than anything that's up front, which is something I have done already. I've placed these warm yellows and warmer greens in the foreground, but still just the general vibrancy of that pink in the background. It's too much. Shush. It's a little bit like an orchestra. I said that last time. When you work with colors, you are working with, imagine writing a piece of music for orchestra. And each one of your colors is a musical instrument. And depending on how loud they should be, the volume you can control by how saturated they are. Saturation as well as color temperature is not absolute. It's something that your eyes keep comparing to everything else around. Okay, now I've got this leftover light pink, and I'm gonna mix a nice violet using my blue. Now using this blue, this particular blue, my ultramarine, and this particular red, more of a magenta, I will end up with purple that is stronger, bolder than my purple on canvas. Add a little bit of white to it. I think it should be a little bit more on the pinky, purpley side. Oh guys, there's no such thing as too much red on an artwork. That's better. And of course, same color. Once I have it on my palette knife, I will be bringing it back very gently, just scraping it against the existing humps and bumps. It sounds silly, but letting the paint paint the painting. Now, I love that. So that one, on my palette knife, it looks gray. That very light lilac-y. It's basically an off-white with a lot of violet in it. If I place it in a sea of yellow, then of course yellow and purples are complementary, so the yellow will push that lilac. However gentle, it will still a point of interest, something to play with, something to look at, something to notice. This is what I'm after. Colors onto a canvas that add variety. So now this new type of a blue, that ultramarine blue, is catching on all these previous textured marks. Picking up my ultramarine blue and mixing it in with my yellow. I have a very nice green here. And you see I didn't mix this green to oblivion, so, and I'm going to add this. If I want to create a new batch, I make sure that it's slightly different. Each one of these, as soon as you run out of a previous batch of paint, chances are you won't be able to mix a color that is exactly the same. Mix the one that you can, and then look at it, look at your palette knife and see where else you can add that. I'm going to have a bit more of this blue here, so a darker turquoise, which is, it's a lot more of a dark green than my previous dark turquoise was. I think I will add some of these patterns here. You see these just great fun. So my orange is going to be a muddier version than the previous one, because this pinky red and the primary yellow they just don't mix into that glorious warm orange that I have here. So being aware of that, I ended up with a very nice tan color. It's not even orange. I wouldn't even call it orange, but it is the color of the ground. So if you are painting anything that should be decoded as ground or earth, this is what you can use. This slightly muddier. Any of your browns are a dark orange. So now I think I'm getting closer to what I would call finished. I'm happier. I'm a lot happier with the overall. Now, one more thing. Some of those trees, I think they need a bit more life, a bit more sunlight. And the way to get sunlight is just add a tiny bit of white to your existing light green mixture. Maybe add a bit more, so you can adjust your colors. And if any of these blobs that you mixed, if they are not the right color, then you just take a little bit of that, put it into a different part of your palette and start mixing. This one is going to be even a lighter one would do. Now, of course, the same green in a slightly warmer, you could use it for refreshing and warming up some of the fields. This time I'm going to scrape it in that direction. Making sure that some of these patterns, that they are not exactly the same all over. Now, what else do I need? Maybe a little bit of the blue back here. Especially if I have a tiny bit of white mixed in with the ultramarine. That creates a very nice light blue that will communicate just with those mountains in the back. So it's almost like the mountains in the back and some of the leaves in the shadow, or you can call them, or you can imagine them, blue flowers. As the same pigment comes back, the same blues that I was using for the purpley mixture for the mountains, that same blue comes back here, and that is going to be a little bit of an echo. You want to create echoes of colors where the same pigment comes back on other parts, other places. Any of the big blobs that you happen to create with a knife that's too big, you can just add something right on top of them. So like this big blue blob that I had here, I'm breaking it up now with a bit of violet, and then I go back with some of the whites that I had, that I think I mentioned last time, that yeah, you have these teeny tiny flowers and you don't want them all over, you don't want them everywhere. It's a few places where you feel like it would make sense. And I would say that's pretty much it. When you go on top a previous layer, it's great fun. You can go back. I've done paintings where it was not just 1 or 2 layers, but 3, 4, 5, 6. You can carry on painting until it becomes like an exercise in sculpture. The broken colors that the Impressionists were after, you cannot recreate with any other tool than using the palette knife. So the palette knife is the one tool that can help you recreate the broken color effects that would make the viewer's eyes wander around, everything color-coded. So these light yellows, light greens in the front, they must be the same thing in the back. Of course, the mountains, those purpley mountains, they come back, the same purple violet dots come back at my feet. So you basically make sure that the same colors come back, white dots, that must be wildflowers that we all know by the edge of the road. And then I have a couple of dots over there, and then a big sweeping, almost white marks that you just assume that it must be the same thing. Go ahead, have fun, just go for it. Yeah, so this was my original, the first one that I did based on my studies or based on my watercolors. You can see that they look different, they feel slightly different. Each one of you will have a slightly different scene. It will feel different because we all handle the knives differently now. Last time I was working with this knife, now I'm working with this. Last time I was working with an entirely different set of colors, so I was working with this, and even if I hold it up here and then I take it away, you can see that there is a lot more color here. There are colors here that you don't see here because the second layer was done with ultramarine blue and magenta instead of primary blue and primary red. I really love layering colors, and the system that I advise you to use is just to make sure that you go with 3 colors, 1 knife, and start applying Impressionist color theory. It's all about contrasts of value meaning how light or dark, but the key for the Impressionists was the contrast of color temperature, so cool colors against warm colors. They were playing across the color wheel. If they wanted to emphasize something, they would add from the opposite side of the color wheel. This is something I came up with for my students because they kept receiving these questions in class. What do I do next? What colors do I use? And they would have that big box of paints, never knew how to make it a coherent artwork. So you create a coherent artwork by sticking to a handful of colors just to keep the artwork from falling apart. I just recommend that you stick with the 3 colors. Then you can go back on top of it and change 1, 2, or all 3 of those original colors and start working with that. Go back to the beginning and paint along, have fun. See you in the next episode.